What will Speaker Ryan do after the pomp and circumstance that we observed last night?
Well, he's got to get a deal on Obamacare, Tom. I mean, that is the #1 problem, and he's got a lot of conservatives who don't like what they're hearing. They're hearing about a reform bill that might actually cost more money. So that's still the problem that has to be resolved before we can get on to all these good things like tax cuts.
I was explaining to the family last night, uproar over, what Ivanka was wearing and what the First Lady was wearing and all that. I was explaining Rockefeller republicanism. Did we hear a speech from Nelson Rockefeller last night?
Part of his speech, I think Bernie Sanders could have delivered, going against the drug industry on pricing, talking about massive infrastructure spending, and most astonishingly of all, earlier in the day, talking about an immigration reform bill that would allow citizenship for 11 million people in the country. So he is not pigeonholed. He is not a conservative Republican. He's a populist who is all over the lot.
Greg, I want to get this question in. It's so important, and it speaks to the guns and butter debate. The political dialogue came to a stop in your New Hampshire months ago when we confronted the East Coast opioid epidemic. We talk about Kentucky. We talk about West Virginia. Your New Hampshire stopped the nation on this drug. Is his budget deficit, is his budget planning, rather, going to have enough butter in it to get the votes from Congress?
I think on issue after issue, including the wall, including drugs, I think he will spend the money. If there's a theme here in all of these stories, it's that the deficit is headed higher. I think he's relatively indifferent to the issue of the deficit. That's another thing that conservative Republicans object to.
Greg, I'm looking at the figures, and I want to come back to what you said on corporate tax, right? So national debt, $20 trillion. Unfunded entitlement obligations, $200 trillion. How can he actually cut tax significantly because of these numbers? It just doesn't add up.
Well, he's got the votes. That's the most important thing. If there's a theme we'll talk about all year long, he's got the votes. Of his 22 cabinet nominees, he got 21. So I think he'll prevail on taxes. Yeah, the deficit will go up, but the last time I checked, the Treasury 10-year bond yield was 2.3 something. So I think the markets may have rates go higher, but he's determined to jumpstart this economy. And on this issue, he's not a traditional conservative. He's a Keynesian.
Right. I was speaking to a political analyst who said possibly President Obama could have also done the same if he had done it right at the beginning of his presidency, to use that political will. How much time do you give Donald Trump to actually push through this tax reform?
Well, let's look back 8 years ago. What really derailed the Obama administration early? Health care. So here we are 8 years later, and Trump and the Republicans have ground to a halt on health care. They've got to get this out of the way and do it soon.